Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Today, let's talk money after a fashion. Talking about $9.6 billion judgment obtained against the country. That figure, $9.6 billion, it's quite frankly, these figures, we don't even know what they are anymore. A billion, by the way, I just took time to find this out. A billion, by the way, is what? 12 zeros. That is to say, $1 million. Okay, bring it down to naira, so maybe we'll understand it a bit better. That's 3.7 trillion. Sorry, I got to fix myself. A billion is merely $1,000 million. I said merely $1,000 million. But a trillion, which comes into play once we bring the $9.6 billion judgment into naira, then we're looking at 3.7 trillion naira, and that's where the 12 figures come into play. So we're now talking about 3.7 million naira. Well, you can imagine what that will do to our foreign exchange. So how did it happen? Someone who can tell us, probably best than most people, is Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Information and Culture Minister, that we're happy to receive in our studio this morning. Thank you very much for coming on, Minister.
Mr. Folari, it's a pleasure to be back here.
Indeed, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
This is, continuation of the work that you started. Now, this is no small change at all. The big question is, in a country full of the knowledge that we have, lawyers, we have experts, we have, how did this ever happen? The firm, the whole story, by the way, goes back to 2010, as we are told. We didn't know about it in 2010. But this Irish company, reportedly worth about something like 1.4 million euro. I don't have the papers for that. But how did this company, a relatively small company, 1.4 trillion odd, 1.4 million euro odd, how is it able to get a judgment that is going to be costing us, if it were to be executed in their favor, all that money, 3.7 million naira, or if you want, the shorter form, $9.6 billion. How did we get into that mess?
Thank you, Mr. Folari. It was in January 2010 that the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources signed a definite agreement with industrial and
process development.
The development company for a transaction. It was called a gas processing contract, and it was meant to be a contract to supply gas for 20 years. But by 2013, trouble had started, with each of the parties accusing one another of non-performance. And P and ID went and sought for arbitration. The arbitration had 3 members. One was nominated by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources. P and ID nominated their own arbitrator, and the 2
agreed on the third.
And there are plenary issues as to whether the seat of the arbitration should be in London or should be in Nigeria. There were issues also about jurisdiction. But to cut a long story short, by 2015, the arbitration found that the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources was liable. After that, there were a lot of legal fireworks between between the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources lawyers and the arbitrators' lawyers. But by 2014, by 2016, when all attempts by the lawyers on the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources failed, I think the matter was handed over to this current Attorney General. But as of that time, all that had been decided was that we were liable. The quantum of our liability was only arrived at in 2017, when it was ruled that we were liable to the tune of almost $6 billion US dollars, about 5.97 US dollars. By the time the P&ID went to court for enforcement on this in 2019, by 16th of August, the High Court in the UK ruled in favor of P&ID that they can attach the assets of Nigeria to the tune of 9.6 billion naira, taking into account the 7% interest, which they said should be running from 2013.
Okay. And when you say should attach, that's lawyer speak for?
It means, for instance, that they can go to court, they can go to wherever we have money or assets.
Or assets.
And like
our planes, our ships,
in the law, in the layman's terms, they can garnish it and then.
Okay.
Now, but I want to assure Nigerians that we are not at all in any imminent danger of that happening now, because even the UK ruling said that they cannot start this enforcement until the court resume and there are further hearings in, sometimes in September, and that so we are looking at that window.
Okay, but the P&ID, according to news, has filed simultaneously in both the UK and the US.
Absolutely, you are correct. They filed this both in the UK
to
and
enforce
the US.
the judgment.
And our lawyers have been very successful in in preventing them in the US to enforce this judgment. We've won quite a few of the preliminary cases and motions in the district courts up to the appeal court in the US, and that is ongoing. Now, but
one moment, sir. Just because we don't know very much about this, we're hearing. We said it's an Irish company. We're a Nigerian country, and we're talking about arbitration, judgments, and all of that in the UK and in the US. Is there a particular reason?
Yeah, well, you see, what I can say with all, with certainty is that the company that is pursuing the enforcement, I think they call them vulture capitalists. I think they're Irish. One of the issues that was raised, like I said at the beginning, was that whether, London should actually be the seat of the arbitration or Nigeria. But I think that is a moot point now, given the ruling. But what we are worried about in Nigeria, number one, apart from the fact that this particular award is exorbitant, is unjustified, is unreasonable, is punitive, we are also very concerned about what we suspect to be some underhand activities. In the first instance, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources has no capacity to go into a contract with any party that
Okay.
has to do with gas production,
Okay.
because they neither own gas nor have gas.
Because what you're saying right now, Alaji, it's going into the question I was going to bring up. Who actually entered into this contract on behalf of Nigeria is what you are beginning to explain to us. That is the Federal Ministry
It's the
of
Federal Ministry of
Petroleum
Petroleum
Resources.
Resources and not the NNPC.
It is the NNPC that probably should.
If you see, the NNPC has gas. International oil companies have gas. There are also some subsidiaries of NNPCs too that have gas. So it would have been much more understandable if the contract was between the NNPC, one of the subsidiaries of NNPC that that produces gas, and not the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources.
Was that maybe because it was in a supervisory capacity?
No, I think, honestly, I think that because ab initio, the contract was entered into, not because they wanted it to be executed, but I think because there must have been some agenda to the whole to the whole issue. Don't forget that this thing happened in 2010, and the company that came, even though they claim to have a track record, well, they might have a record. We have not seen the track at all, at least not in Nigeria. But I think, again, that is not the issue, and what we are contesting now is that even the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that entered into that contract has no capacity to so do, and that's why we are very glad that the Mr. President has directed the appropriate agencies, including the IG, the police, including the NIA, including the FCC, to actually go into the entire operation and unravel the mystery. Who are the people that were involved in this whole scam, I want to put it, and bring them to justice.
But even back in 2010, Alaji, contracts on this magnitude must have necessarily have been approved by the Federal Executive Council.
I'm told authoritatively that this particular one never got to the Federal Executive Council. I'm told.
Oh.
And this is actually what fuels the suspicion that there's more than meets the eye.
I see.
In this particular,
I see.
Yes, contract.
In fact, there's probably reason to now begin to, what is the word now? I don't want to go ahead and say doubt, but be quite apprehensive as to whether there was ever an intention originally to execute this contract.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Farin, that the bona fide of the entire contract is very suspicious. Whether it truly, in fact, there was any intention for the contract to be executed. There's a school of thought that anytime the foreign reserves of the country is rising, there are these hawks, vultures, I'm sorry to use the word, outside there that will always come with one scam project or the other, targeting just our foreign reserve. But it's also important to state here that these international scammers wouldn't have succeeded, but for the collaboration of people within. And that is why I think the federal government's searchlight on this particular contract is very helpful, because it will be able to show exactly those either from within or from without Nigerians who have also contributed in bringing us to this sorry pass.
How competent were our people, our lawyers, when you spoke about arbitration and explained that, look, they agreed among themselves. You people in Nigeria, bring one. You Irish people, bring one. The third one, let it be what the both of you agreed. And then we also, at one stage, I think Chief Bayojo, his name was mentioned. I know that you've already said that you are not too happy with people who are alluding to possible incompetence in the way this was defended by Nigerians that were supposed to depend upon.
I think it's on record that Chief Bayojo had a dissenting judgment when it came to the quantum of damages. I think he said, look, that I think he said something to the effect that the P&ID ought not to have just, they ought to have mitigated their losses, by doing something and not waiting for the entire 20 years for 20 years profit. Because what has been awarded P&ID is actually what they would have made in 20 years if they had done that contract, minus the cost of infrastructure, minus cost of, equipment. Yeah, and that's why we believe that this award is reasonable.
What was P&ID bringing into the project that has now led us? I'm just looking at what they put into it, and now if wishes were horses, they would want it to fly, and they would get a.
It's a Ferrari. They claim they spent $40 million in. They've claimed rather that they brought in $40 million, but the government of Central Bank says that there is no record of any sort that 1 penny was brought in by this foreign company. And that is why
further pointing to a conspiracy theory.
This is why we were further baffled about the whole issue. One would have expected the arbitration, even if they will find in favor of P&ID, the quantum of damages should only be restitutional. When you go to arbitration, the idea is that they will put you in a situation whereby at least you don't lose money. But what has done now is not restitution. It's like they're paying them as if they've done the contract for 20 years. That's why we believe that they have been overcompensated, and it has gone beyond protecting the commercial interest of P&ID. I think this is why we are quite optimistic that when this matter is appealed, we hope,
because the provision does exist that it can be appealed, or you're going to explore the possibility.
I think, well, we are appealing, one, for a stay of execution,
okay,
and two, to also appeal for against the enforcement, and hopefully we'll be able to argue, make a case for the entire review of the process. I would rather allow the lawyers. Well, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not that. My lawyer's not going to.
You're not on that side of the issue.
The federal government is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that our assets are not attached. Because when you start, the kind of money involved is 1/5 of our entire
foreign reserve, 20% of our foreign reserve, right?
And I think that is huge. So, but it's something that I believe that every Nigerian should be very concerned about. And it's quite disheartening when you see certain editorials and certain comments being made in the media by people who have thrown, patriotism and objectivity, overboard, and who have little or no understanding of the real issues involved. You begin to get worried whether they have any other country apart from Nigeria, and who whose interest they are working for.
You know, part of the challenge, I think, is the fact that in cases like this, it often is that there's such a deep underbelly of issues that probably will never come out into the public, it being between governments and, you know, and the nature of this particular one. There's so much stuff that one often finds that in these kind of cases, maybe your very good self, Mr. Minister, or other people in government are not even at liberty to speak about those areas. But the area of apprehension is that where this arbitration came from, we often hear from our own lawyers that, look, when you have these legal matters, courts, tribunals, they usually concern themselves with what is in front of them. And then, in other words, don't bring emotions into it, don't bring extraneous factors into it. What is before the judge is what he will make a decision upon. And it's in a place where we have said, oh, thank God that this case happened here. We are sure of the fairness of it. Now, is all that breaking down now? That's where the apprehension is coming from, that the legal authorities, the institutions over there that have seen fit to make this, as we are seeing, unfair declaration, because we think it's excessively high. But they were looking at whatever the facts were to arrive at that decision.
Well,
how do we understand it?
It seems apparent without any intention to impugn the integrity of anybody or the arbitration panel. I think the verdict of experts on this matter is that this particular award is unreasonable, exorbitant. It's gone far beyond protecting the commercial interests of P and ID. It's punitive in nature, and that is just not fair. Honestly, that is what the experts, and the experts came to this conclusion going by examining, forensically this particular contract, what was expected of the parties, what the parties have put in, what injuries they have suffered, and they believe that it's excessive. As a matter of fact, I know that the minority view of Chief Bayojo is that if at all they've suffered any injury, they should not be awarded more than $250 million.
Okay.
That
was Chief Bayojo's
yes,
minority opinion.
Opinion in the arbitration, yes. Many experts who we consulted too came to the conclusion that this is unprecedented. That is go far beyond protect the commercial interests of P and ID.
This in the first term of President Buhari's administration, this matter didn't come up, and here we are beginning this term. It's now suddenly a big issue. How did it come to the present notice of the government this time? Because when you arrived, you recall back in the day, very first few weeks or months of your arrival in your first term, it was said that there was so much muck, it's going beyond cleaning out the agent's tables, that you had thought that we could just do this and that. But we now found that it was was it in the midst of all of that this kind of a thing was missed, since we've heard now that it was going from 2010?
It was not missed. Like I said, the contract was signed in 2010. If my memory serves me well, there are about 7 other gas development projects that were signed about this time. Contracts. And frankly speaking, one begins to ask, what has become of them?
Because I was going to ask if those did any better.
Yeah. Now, when, like I said, this contract was signed in 2010, by 2013, they've gone to arbitration. By 2014, an interim award was made, finding us liable.
Okay, government was following all of this while.
And the government at every point, I think the then Attorney General employed the services of lawyers both here and in the UK. And it was only in 2016, my records, serve me well, that when the lawyer handling it on behalf of the Petroleum Resources failed in stopping the arbitration, in stopping the award, returned the file back to the Federal Ministry of Justice, 2016. And from that moment, Federal Ministry of Justice stepped in.
Okay, I see.
Held meetings with PNID, engaged lawyers, and up till the final, the final, award in 2017, where the issue of quantum was agreed upon at $5.97 billion, and then, of course, again, which was again appealed and which was challenged, and
all this while the interest was running.
All this was at 7%.
We've now landed at 9.6.
And 7% was supposed to be running as from 2013. So you can imagine if you are running interest at 7% every year from 2013 to 2019. That's what this thing has now ballooned to 9.6 billion US dollars. Which we still insist is unreasonable, it's exorbitant, it's punitive, and goes far beyond protecting commercial interest.
And government will be exploring all avenues
absolutely
to get us out of this terrible bind.
Legal, and whatever, because we believe it's just not fair.
While government is also trying to get to the bottom of how could this happen, right? Because we've said the president has ordered a probe into what went on. And I wonder how helpful or useful a source such as Attorney General Adoke back in the day would be in those inquiries.
Well, I would not want to comment on what work is being undertaken by the various security and intelligence agencies. I think they will come out with their report, and from what I hear, they are not taking this matter lightly, and we should be expecting an interim report very soon.
But you've been at pains to sort of explain to Nigerians that have no fear.
No. I want to assure Nigerians that
we're not going to lose 9.6 billion of assets.
The federal government will leave no stone unturned to ensure that this doesn't happen. You see, and this is why again we have to appeal to the sense of patriotism of every Nigerian. This is not about just a particular government; it's about Nigeria. You don't have to like Buhari's government, but just imagine what it will mean to the average Nigerian if we lose 20% of our foreign reserves. And this is why, you see, in other climes, when a matter like this comes, people rally behind their government.
Instead of being critical.
Unfortunately, in Nigeria, no. Some people are actually benefiting from this. But they've forgotten one thing, that the repercussion, the unlikely event that this money is attached, will affect each and every one of us.
Okay. We've got to go on a break now, and I'll come back and look at, as you are speaking to us, Alhaji, there's a sense, you're appealing to our sense of reason and sense of common sense that look at it, but even if you want compassion, because you made the point that 20% of our hard-earned foreign reserve, I mean, this is not reasonable. Unfortunately, I don't know the extent to which the law is compassionate.
No, I'm not talking about the law.
Going about his business.
You see, it's not just law. This morality. We're talking about morality.
Okay.
We're talking about, a transaction that we have very strong reasons to believe that is tainted with fraud.
Okay, let's go on a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with this, and also we'll take your calls. I imagine there are all sorts of, it always happens when Lai Mohammed is in the house, there will be people calling in wanting to speak. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and our guest is Lai Mohammed. The first half of the program, he sought to explain how we got into this situation, and now the lines will be open. How we got into the situation of $9.6 billion judgment against us for a contract that was entered into between the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and this Irish company P&ID. Alaji has opined that he's at a loss to understand why the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources was the party and not, NNPC itself, as he put it, that actually has gas. But government has said that this matter is going to be investigated, and Alaji has emphasized that there's no way of looking at this thing but an unfair, and I think I read somewhere where he said that this was, you had the impression that this was meant to inflict economic injury on us.
Yeah, of a gargantuan proportion on us. Yeah?
Totally unprecedented.
Yes.
I can't recall that in the absence of war, any such award has made any such reparations.
I'm not aware that this kind of award is made anywhere in the world.
But Nigeria is going to fight it is the other thing.
Fight it.
But again, you were explaining just before we went on break that it's not about compassion, because I thought we would be appealing to the sense of, come on, proportion, come on, understand it.
Honestly, we're just a victim of, honestly, we're just, on this, I think Nigeria is just a victim of some scammers. Okay. But again, like I said, these scammers...
And these scammers will be both within and without.
And without. Oh, yes.
Okay. Joshua in Irewolede, good morning, sir.
Very good morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning to the Honorable Minister.
Good morning, sir.
I congratulate him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say, because I know many people want to talk about this, I believe compliance with the Public Procurement Act was not available. To say that there's no foreign company that can win such a contract without the backing of powerful Nigerians is very obvious. I want to ask what we are doing about making our former presidents accountable for their actions when they are out of government.
Okay.
Too many people seem untouchable in Nigeria.
You're talking about things that happened under their watch.
Yes, things that happen under their watch. We have to be able to bring people to be accountable for their actions when they are out of government. If they know that will happen, I think they will have to caution themselves in the kind of things they approve.
Okay.
So please, we should look at this thing very well in order to prevent future occurrences while we are managing this one.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Really appreciate your call. You had alluded to this a bit when you said you're not even sure this went past the FEC.
No, to the best of my knowledge, this did not go through the Federal Reserve Council. That's my understanding right now.
but that's mind-boggling.
No, that's my understanding.
But this is part of the things that will need to be unraveled.
When the investigation, by the time the team comes up with a report, I think all this would come out. But to the best of my knowledge, this never went through the Federal Reserve Council. Honestly.
So it's not a matter of...
No, it's not.
It does really look as if there were efforts, sitting just right here where I'm sitting and don't know anything about it, it does look as if there were efforts to circumvent all the checks and balances that we would normally have by internal collaborators.
I can't but agree with you, because you see, I look at this, the size of this contract. Does the Federal Ministry of Petroleum, do they have the capacity? Do they have the technical knowledge at that level, financial, competence to go into a contract of a gas supply for 20 years with all the legalities involved?
But
I don't think it was any intention that this contract should be performed.
Okay, because
clearly, but like I say again, there's a lot of saboteurs both in and out.
Yeah, indeed. And we need to wait for the report to come out.
Yes.
Doga in Dublin, Ireland. Good morning.
Ruben. Yeah, good morning, Ruben.
Ruben?
Am I speaking to Ruben Abati?
No, actually, you connected with TVC News.
Yes, they are on the program with Lai Mohammed now.
Okay, yes, we are on the program with Lai Mohammed. My name is Yori Folarin, but the minister is here, and that's the more important thing. What did you want to say about the subject matter?
Well, about the subject matter, what I want to say is that this contract was signed during the time of Yaradua. And in the time of Yaradua, and I was meant to understand during the time of Jonathan, there is out-of-court settlement. And the out-of-court settlement, which Jonathan couldn't implement because he went out of office. And now Buhari government came, they didn't take that serious. My expectation is for us to be proactive, not to be reactive, setting investigation final, because now they want to go and implement that judgment in the US and other parts of Europe. What I expect the Nigerian government, the Buhari-led government to do, is to look at mechanism, how do we resolve these issues, rather to trade blame. The earlier we do that, the more proactive we are, the better. And subsequently, our government should try to read between the lines in signing contracts. No matter how juicy they are, sometimes they could be trapped.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Doga. Appreciate your call.
Yeah, you see, I don't think Mr. Doga had been following from the beginning. Because, like I said, this contract was signed in 2010. They went to arbitration in 2013. Got an award in 2014. It was only in 2016 that the file was returned to the Federal Ministry of Justice. And from that point in time, this administration has held meetings and tried out-of-court settlement with the with P&ID. We've also defended vigorously the attempt by P&ID to get enforcement in the U.S. And so it's we have been more than proactive. We have been looking for solutions, but we must continue to insist that this whole thing was meant to end like this from the beginning.
Okay.
And at the time we came in, a award had been made. Arbitration had made an award, and actually the P&ID had started, the process of, even getting enforcement. Actually, the quantum of damage was only decided in 2017, which means everything about, the award had been done before the file was returned to us. What I mean, a judge liable. All our defenses, whether it had to do with seat of arbitration or jurisdiction, had been thrown out.
Okay.
To me, what I say from what Mr. Doga has said is that I think in future, when this kind of contracts are being signed, especially when the contract is to be, executed in Nigeria and the money will come from Nigeria, I think we should insist that the seat of arbitration should be in Nigeria.
Okay. P and ID.
Yes.
Yeah, P and ID. Maybe because it's an Irish firm. Mohammed has called in from Dublin in Ireland. Good morning, Mr. Mohammed.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Honorable Minister.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Some of us, as I always say, we are most concerned about the happening in our country. And I'm sorry to say this. I'm not trying to belittle my country. Nigeria is great, and it will remain great. Can't we take a leave and borrow some of the happening in South Africa? Jacob Zuma has been on and on in court. These are examples of a good government in a country. These things was inherited by the previous government. And the principals then, the president then, Jonathan, is still alive. Can't the country at least summon him, not even so, I'm sorry to use that word summon, invite him to explain details of what happened then to Nigerians. And again, talking about the power, I mean, the power, a lot of money that was invested on power, about 17 billion, not in naira, in dollar. And our president then, Olusegun Obasanjo, is alive, and nobody even invite him to explain the details of the happening to Nigeria. What is happening?
Okay.
Some of us are concerned.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed.
Things like these are happening.
All right,
they
then.
won't take this government serious. I'm sorry to say that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. Let's get Alhaji Mohammed to comment on that. In terms of investigating, trying to get to the bottom of this, can previous leaders be of assistance?
I would want to second guess what the EFCC, NIA, and police, what they're doing. But we intend to really get to the bottom of this matter. And actually, who are those who kind of collaborated with P&ID for us to get into this sorry pass. So it's not about name calling. We're not being emotional. We're just trying to ensure that in future this kind of thing does not happen. Yes.
Okay. Comrade Ayo in Oshogbo, good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yomi.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to the Honorable Mr. Lai Mohammed.
Good morning.
Honorable Mr. Let me start by congratulating you on your as the Minister of Culture.
Thank you.
Now, Minister, you see, we the people who believe so much in this administration, who did everything we could to make sure the president emerges as president of this country, we are much when we see things like this happening, and it seems as if the government is not doing enough for the citizens of this country. I'm talking about this contract. This contract was signed in 2010, arbitration 2013, 2015, and up to now until the judgment came. What has the government been doing? Now the judgment has come. What is the government doing now to at least to ameliorate or to see that we don't go into this huge amount, payments of this huge amount?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Comrade Ayo. Appreciate your call. Actually, Alhaji has gone into that before, but still.
You see, like I said, I've given an account of what the government has been doing since this matter came to our notice in 2016. We've engaged P&ID in negotiation to see how we can arrive at an amicable solution. We have engaged lawyers to ensure that enforcement is not done, in the US in particular. We've engaged lawyers in the UK to appeal this matter. As we speak today, we are still in touch with our lawyers who, as soon as the courts resume in the UK, will file, appeal, and will also file for stay of execution. So this government, even though we inherited this nightmare, we have not kept quiet, and we have not sat still.
You spoke about vulture capitalists.
Yes, and like I said,
jocularly, but these people are being very aggressive. It's almost like a hostile takeover.
Well, frankly speaking, like I said, I'm not too sure of the identity of P&ID, but I'm sure of the identity of vulture capitalists because I'm told that this is not the first time they are going to appear on our radar in Nigeria, but that is for another day.
And that's a story for another day. Yakub Ndokwemu, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Minister.
Good morning.
Yeah. Just here from Iriwani, and then one other guy that's coming from outside the country. I can tell you, maybe like 10 people caught to this studio this morning. I believe out of 10, 7 of us will be saying that the people that are going into this very contract that made us to find ourselves in this kind of situation today, some of us will be complaining, and there will be made a request for the federal government to be able to call them and bring them to the justice. Why am I saying that? Usually, if that does not done, this present government now, if
they did something wrong as well. If another government comes to play, they will not call them for order as well. Why am I saying that? Someone said that former President Jonathan to be able to call, to come and answer why this is like this. And then another person mentioned $60 billion that spent on the NEPA issue. That President Olusegun Obasanjo to be able to come and accountable for that. The unique about this country is this: if these two people called into order and then they started prosecuting them, the first thing you'll be hearing is that the Niger Delta people will be telling you they want to blow up the pipeline. Another group will say they want to blow this country down because they call the president into order to come and accountable for what's going on under their watch. Look at the South Africa today, as one of the caller rightly made earlier. The former president of South Africa is going to court. Nothing happened. The country does not fall. Why is it in this our country that people call some quote and unquote powerful people to come and accountable for what they did under their watch?
Okay, Yakub, appreciate your call. Really do appreciate your call, Yakub. Thank you very much. You've made your point. And, you know, as Alhaji has said, he doesn't want to preempt whatever the strategy is of those who are in charge of this. No doubt, but this is being noted. You've helped us understand how to look at this, but I wish I could say that our hand looks strong. And, you know, I'm just admitting my own vulnerabilities.
Mr. Folari, yes, I think you are correct, and it's okay. It's right for you to be worried, but we are very optimistic. Okay. That the steps we are taking would end up in protecting our assets. Okay. Unfortunately, it's a case that should give anybody concern. Indeed. But we're not folding our arms, and as I speak to you now, there are meetings being held along this same line in Abuja, in Lagos, and we are in constant touch with all our lawyers.
Over to the UK now. Mr. Maduka, good morning.
Good morning, Chief Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Honorable Minister.
Good morning.
Congratulations for coming back.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, my first question will be, will you be able to tell Nigerians what was the value of Nigerian counterpart funding in this whole thing? And what percentage of this amount had been expended, so that Nigerians will be able to appreciate when you begin to talk of investigating all the people concerned. Because the way some of us may understand this, that is making this company to be able to have this kind of value of damages would be that Nigeria failed completely to do their own part of the business. But we know that what happens in Nigeria is, somebody like me will not be so shocked to hear that almost 90% of what was supposed to be Nigerian contribution may have been expended. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maduka.
Well, Mr. Maduka, my understanding of the contract was that this was supposed to be a gas distribution contract. What Nigeria was meant to provide was the gas, which we have in abundance. And I think the issue was that Nigeria could not have given them the gas if the company had not provided the infrastructure, the storage, the pipelines, and things like that. So it's not correct way to say that Nigeria had, or the people had spent or had taken the counterpart funding from the government and they have not remitted it, or they have not done what they want to do with it. This is a contract, if I understand. I think OML 23 was supposed to be given to the company from which they were supposed to, the gas from, it was the gas from that OML 23 or so, whatever, that was supposed to to provide the gas. But I think the argument on the other side was that, yes, the gas is there, but you want to process the gas. Where is the equipment for you to process it? Like I say, this is neither here nor there, but it's not correct to say that probably Nigeria taking the counterpart funding and shared it. Okay. But what we are saying is that the entire contract looks a bit fishy.
Okay. Well, Malaga, Spain now, and Mr. Young, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Uncle Yere. I enjoy your program so much. This is my first time calling you.
Oh, we're delighted to have you. Thank you very much for calling in.
Yes, thank you very much. Please, I wanted to add some opinion to Honorable Minister.
Sure.
Please, what I want, because there is no way for me to be able to be with, there is no way I can sit with him any day. What I want to plead him, please, you talk to Mr. President. Nigeria need to invest more on prison. There is no prison in Africa. There's no prison. That's why you see
did you say prison
in Africa?
Did you say prison?
Prison, yes.
As in penitentiary?
Yes, prison.
Yes.
Okay.
Prison, yes.
Okay.
Prison.
Okay.
Nigeria need to invest more on prison. We don't have prison in Africa, especially in Nigeria. Because people commit crime, they go with the crime. It's only like you see a rich man or a poor man, somebody will be slapping a woman in public, then he will go easy with the crime. So you see this thing that we are complaining about, 9 billion, 6 billion, 3 billion. We have been hearing that for a long time. I'm 38 years old. Right from the time I beat Babaki School when I was in Benin and all that, people have been committing crime. Okay. Nigeria need to invest more on prison, Mr. Honorable Minister. There's no way for me to sit with you. I beg, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Appreciate your call, Mr. Young.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, it's an idea because I think I get the point Mr. Young was making, that I'm hearing all these stories of misbehavior. People
like that more people should be in jail.
Yeah,
I think probably before the prison, I think it was there's also the issue of enforcement. I know we'll get to that.
We'll get to that stage. Okay, then maybe, Alhaji, we've said all that we need to say at this stage in terms of understanding the situation and seeing exactly where we are. People will be left to, take all that you have said, take the evidence such as it is, which is what courts do, arbitration panels do, and then we form our own sort of impression. But at the end of the day, you've been reassuring that Nigeria will not.
We would do our best to ensure that the Nigerian assets are not touched, and we are leaving no stone unturned in this respect.
Okay, I'm told I can squeeze in a last caller, and so it'll come from Johannesburg, South Africa. Chief Fagbemi is there. Good morning, Chief.
Hello, good morning, Kuyori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yes. Thank you for the good job you are doing, Chief Yori. And I want to seize this opportunity also to congratulate Alhaji for his reappointment as an honorable minister.
Quickly, please, because we're running out of time.
Thank you very much.
Then on the issue of this $9.6 billion, I think the government should look at it that from the report that we have had, that this company, P&ID, did not even buy any land in Cross River State where they are supposed to site, their plants. So when they don't even have any land, any infrastructure, and the government that is supposed to supply the gas did not even lay any pipe from the OML 23 to the site, I think it's all a scam. What the government should do is a counter suing this company for scamming Nigeria so that we can take them to court in Nigeria for fraud. I think this is fraud. We shouldn't even be talking about payment of the 9.6 billion because it is all fraud ab initio.
Thank you very much, Chief Fagbemi. I really appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Chief Fagbemi was our last caller there.
Well, honestly, I can't agree more with
Chief Agbemi.
Chief Agbemi. I mean, like I said, the whole thing is shrouded in a lot of controversy and a lot of doubt. So, and that's why we should actually allow this committee, this committee served by Mr. President, to do his job, and let the findings will be made available to Nigerians.
Well, thank you very much, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, for coming to talk to us about this. There's so many other things, of course, in information, but this was a very, very important one, the way it broke. No doubt security, just in as much as you can in the next 2 sentences or so. Are you satisfied with the rate of progress towards making a more secure environment?
Oh, I think so. Because if you look at the records, I think the killings, the cattle rustling, the kidnappings have been coming down. Okay. We're not yet there, but the records, and I think at another time I'll come back and give you what the figures are month by month. Even when
we're witnessing improvement.
You have some resurgence,
Yeah.
But overall, I think we're getting a handle on the insecurity in the country.
Alhaji Lai Mohammed, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
Indeed. So that's our program, and well, at this stage I can just say, do have a great weekend, and please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folani. Bye-bye for now.